Come on, baby. Let's go live, Walshy. I think we're live, mate, and
Okay.
it's actually a really good evening to you, mate. It's a welcome back to you, Walshy, Sock TV, and to the Spot On Hose and Fittings Clubhouse on this amazing. I think it's Wednesday night. It's been a blur this week, but it's a welcome back to the clubhouse. We've had a short break, Walshy, and we've got, can we say our Christmas edition? I think we can. So, look, I'm your host, Anthony Telfer. It's an absolute pleasure to bring you edition 112. And as we know, the Clubhouse is not just a show about cricket, it's a place where we come together and we relive the highlights from the week. We share our thoughts, we celebrate the day's play with both our teammates, our opposition, and also the umpires over a cold beer, soft drink, or even maybe a red wine. So, whether you're a club cricketer or an international player, the clubhouse has something special for everyone. And tonight, the clubhouse, as always, is brought to you by our wonderful sponsor, Spot On Hose and Fittings, who specialise in the supply of hydraulic hose and fittings for the mining, manufacturing, agricultural, and industrial and construction industries. So, tell Jeff and Ben Charlesworth that Telf and Walshy sent you. And like always in the clubhouse, I'm joined by great mate and Aussie legendary broadcaster, Peter Walsh. It's great to have you back, and it's good to be here.
Telf, I have to use the F word. I
Oh
apologise in
no,
advance.
is that 2 weeks in a row?
No. It's frustration. It's
Oh,
frustration when we sit upon cricket that's coming out of every orifice of our whole body. It's just spread far and wide, and we're loving being involved in this popular program, the Spirit of Cricket Show. But is there anything more frustrating? And you know this because you've played the game for such a long time. When the weather intervenes, and when you start
oh
talking
yeah.
about, is this a record for the number of times that players have left the field during a test match? Will it break the record that is already in double figures? And we can't talk about who won the test match up at the Gabba. All we can do is talk about the rain, but still, it got people's juices really pumped up. It was one of those fascinating cricket matches, and it gave me the reasons for being enthused, as always, to work with you and to think about what we've got ahead of not just the Australian cricket team at their purest, but an Australian team that might be just having a bit of fun overseas in January, February, and the person that's smiling on the other end of the line is you. And I'll tell you what, you're looking for the Sri Lanka.
Yes. Hey, yeah. You know what I should do, Walshy? And thanks for that great intro. But you know what I should do? Can I borrow your shirt that was made, that you've shown on the show so many times, made out of the Sri Lankan flag? I would wear that proudly.
I just hang on, I just got to work that. It's 25, 30, 40. Yeah, $50.
Mate, it's good to be back. We've had a bit of a lull. We've had a fair bit happening, Walshy, over the last month. We've had all of the Aussie nationals. So we've had the ladies, we've had the over 40s, we've had the over 50s, the over 55s, we've had the over 60s, we've had the over 65s, and we've even had, can you believe it, the over 70s nationals. And that was closely followed by the England team who've been here touring Australia. They started in Queensland and worked their way down the east coast. They played at the Bowral Oval in New South Wales against the Aussies. They went to Melbourne and played games there. They came across to Adelaide. They even had a game against the South Australians at the Chateau Tanunda, who are great supporters of the spirit of cricket, and I was there to witness that for an hour or so. And then they went all the way over to Western Australia to play over there as well. But at the end of the day, the Aussies won the Ashes, which was a tremendous tour, a great effort by those Pommy guys that have been out here over the last month or so, touring Australia and enjoying the Australian hospitality, but more importantly, making lifetime friends. It's been a massive, 6 to 8 weeks of cricket here in Australia for veterans cricket.
And dare I say it, for those people that are not aware, I'd love to get some stats as to who has reintroduced themselves, not just males, but females, to playing the game they might have played as teenagers. And now all of a sudden, there are brackets, there are age brackets where you can say, oh, look, I'll go out and try, I'll do this, I'll do that. And now it's a real mouthful to be able to mention off all the teams and to think to yourself, you could be representing your country overseas in a certain age group and
Yeah,
loving it. And some of these players, they're just thriving on the opportunity of travel as well. And the sea
yeah,
change is you don't just go and play in a country, you get the chance, and we'll talk about the Sri Lankan tour a little later, but you get the chance to have a look at what you see. And this is where it's magnificent. And the name that jumped up with me is Neville Kratzmann, who, of course, was the dad. Now, he's ticking along nicely. He's getting up there towards the three figures. Not quite that much. But
no, don't, no.
there's an example, Telf, of somebody who I reckon when they packed the bags, the two boys and dad, he was first in the car to drive from the tip of Australia to Mildura. And he was just such a revelation of wonderful knowledge, pride for his sons that were playing, and waiting for the next chance to go and play, well, not so much play, but be involved in the sport that he's loved so much. And that's not just tennis, but it is cricket. And that's what I'm getting back from people who are sharing their moments with us.
Yeah, and look, Neville was part of our first tour to New Zealand as well. He was a Spirit of Cricket tour member, and he followed both Mark and Andrew as Mark played in as our captain of the Spirit of Cricket team in New Zealand, but also followed Andrew as he explored his opportunities with the Australian team against both the Kiwis and also the USA side. So look, Neville's an amazing guy, and he was in Mildura for our Spirit of Cricket tournament and the festival and part of the EV2 franchise, who were the eventual winners. And I've got photos of Neville in the team photo. He was probably their team manager, I guess, outside of John Short. But yeah, look, it's been an exciting couple of months. It feels like I've actually lived out of my suitcase since September with all the travel that I've undertaken, and obviously we've got more to come in the new year. So really looking forward to it, Walshy.
Yeah, it means that people now who might be, say, heading towards the end of their 30s, and they might be playing cricket, but not playing cricket with as much enthusiasm as they might have had 10 years prior, but then they're having a jar with one of their mates in the pub on a Friday night. Oh, what are you doing on the weekend? Oh, going away now. I'm fortunate enough and good enough to be involved with an Australian team now because I'm 41 and I fit neatly into the age bracket category. So I've got myself locked into a decade of my life where I will reinvent myself and see just how many rungs on the ladder I can climb to being back to what I was like. And you're in a better position to make a judgment. When we had our teams for the Mildura Festival, the number of people who were interested in being involved, and they had their stories to tell about how they found out when they were drafted. And they were like kids. They're like kids the AFL draft. And that's a wonderful feeling. And what it does too is it means that you can be so proud of what you've done, Telf, and the people that are involved aren't just the players or the officials, but the spectators. It's like a moving feast of cricket purists who make sure that they've checked out every conceivable hotel or motel or restaurant in Mildura, have dragged as many of those ugly carps out of the Murray River, but still have a wonderful time all about the caravan. It was like a big caravan going from point A to point B, and it continues.
It was amazing, and I think we had 120 players, but we had nearly I think there was 200 people part of that caravan, as you put it. But at the end of the day, I think there was only one person that was dragging those dirty carp out of the Murray River, and that was you, mate.
Look,
we shared a lot of your photos when you were relaxing after what was an amazing. Well, it was for me. It was an amazing 3 weeks, but an amazing. Probably, was it 7 or 8 days for you with the final and then straight into the T20 tournament? But you know what? We're going to do that again, Walshy. We're going to go back to Mildura. We're going to not reinvent the wheel, but we'll do it all again, bigger and better than what we did with our pilot study. or tournament. And, you know, as we gear up for 25, we're going to roll that out internationally into other countries. And our first port that we're heading to, Walshy, is part of the over 50s World Cup with the IMC, the International Masters Cricket Organisation, who are running their over 50s World Cup. And we've been lucky enough to get a team of, I think there's 20 in our touring party that are heading to Sri Lanka in the first week of February. And the World Cup kicks off around I think it's around the 8th or the 9th with a welcoming. And our touring party have been lucky enough to secure tickets to that welcoming ceremony in Sri Lanka. And that's going to be a lifetime memory for our touring party. And we're really looking forward to that as we spend, I think it's 12 days in Sri Lanka.
Look, that's outstanding news. The one short story that I want to pass on to you is Sri Lanka played a test match against Australia at Bellerive, and that was the first test match that the Australians had played at Bellerive, and I was very fortunate to be involved in the coverage. And you've got to be careful about how you describe how you got on with a touring party who, yeah, they were a bit nervous about it all. Aravinda De Silva and Ravi Ratnayaka and those sorts of players who weren't household names to us, but would become it. And, you know, when we talk to Matara Muralidharan and all of those that bounced up at you, they were just a beautiful people. They really were. And they warmed to the Australian environment, to the Tasmanian environment. They were at the Taste of Tasmania, and they were around when it was almost time for the Sydney Hobart. And you felt like, hey, wow, this country is producing, and haven't they gone on from there? And this is where the friendships are made, not just by those from the teams that you're with, but it's the teams that you're playing against. And Richie Beno was there, and we had a chat one day, and he said to me, and I'll always remember it because I was nervous and I had the chance to call the test. It was only because there was a bereavement with a member of our touring party who unfortunately lost someone on the eve of the test. And I was very nervous. And my boss, Neville Oliver, said to me, Richie Beno's down there at the nets. You want to go down and ask him for a few pointers? Keith Stackpole was part of our commentary, and Keith, a wonderful man, a Victorian player of substance, of course. And I went down there and I sheepishly walked up and excused myself, and Richie looked across and I said, "G'day." And I said, "Look, I'm a bit nervous. This is the first test match I've ever broadcast." "What was your name again?" Walsh. "No, that's fine." And I had the shirt on, and he just glared at me because he had a nice coat that he wore, or jacket.
And did you have the coloured shirt on at the time, or was that?
I didn't have the Sri Lankan one, but I had a coloured one, yes. And I said, best tip, he said, the best and only tip that I'll pass on, because you've got to be yourself. Don't try and sound like anyone else. Be yourself. Never be afraid of the sounds of silence. Pause.
Yeah.
And he said, I'll explain that to you. You don't have to talk all the time. I know you're radio, that's fine, but never be afraid of the sounds of silence. And I had this wonderful pleasure years later on. Unfortunately, Richie's wife had passed away. Sorry, Richie had passed away, and his wife was at a function when the test match was on in Adelaide. And I had the pleasure of sitting next to Daphne and talking to her, because she was out there and she tossed the coin at the start of the test match. And I've got a lovely photo of that I look at from time to time, and I think about the wonderful people that you would have met and I've met in your sporting trips all over the shop, and the memories that you have of those people. And the Beno family, they were just extraordinary. And Richie was Richie. Everybody knew Richie Beno, and what a wonderful person he was.
And look, thank you so much for sharing that amazing story. Obviously, that took place between Australia and Sri Lanka and Tassie. But what was the commentary like? How did you go on the day or over the week?
Well, we didn't have a commentary box at that stage. We had a tree house where the fire brigade from Bellerive, and that's on the eastern shore, they put a ladder in, and we had to climb up a ladder into this tree house. And I thought to myself, oh, well, that's what you do. It was extraordinary because
I'm visualising you and Richie Benno climbing up this
I
ladder.
don't know. Richie was television. I was radio.
Oh, okay. You
Yeah,
were
the Channel
radio.
9 lads, they had the good thing.
Actually, you're probably right there because you've got a good head for radio.
No, very good. But we had Stuart Saunders, who was a leg spinner for Tasmania and actually who played with Australia on a rebel tour and went to South Africa. Now he was a bit out of left field, Stewie, in a nice way, but he bought all of the sausages and the chops and all that for the barbecue that we had at the back of the press box, which was sitting up on foundations there or scaffold, and it was extraordinary. And the amazing thing about it, Telf, was the Sri Lankans didn't actually bring a broadcaster over, but they brought over a lot of scribblers who would write all their notes. They all wanted to come up into the commentary box. And Rick Finlay, who was the statistician of subs,
Are you saying they all wanted to climb the ladder?
Oh, they didn't mind. They didn't mind. But it was just a wonderful way of getting together and sharing stories. And we took them down and they had their meals and Stewie cooked up the sausages. What were in those sausages, I would have absolutely no idea. But you didn't feel any rung when you walked down the ladder. You floated down. So that was all right. But that was Sri Lanka's introduction to cricket in Tasmania and our introduction to I suppose, the differing conditions that we experienced and endured. But that stayed there for a long time until such time as the Bellerive ground was reinvented, I think is the best way of saying it, for football. And, of course, North Melbourne played down there a bit and Hawthorn played down there a bit. And eventually there'll be a new ground there for the Tasmania's entry into the AFL, but the Bellerive ground will be there.
Yep. The Tassie Devils can't wait for that.
I know. And
let me guess. Are you a member of them as well?
Well, I'm a member of
$10.
The Glenorchy Football Club. I've joined there, and also the Tassie team. And yeah, we'll see what happens. But Bellerive, lots of memories too from Sri Lanka's point of view. And yeah, it's just, for me, I'm envious of how much fun you're going to have when you're over there.
Exactly. Have you ever been to Sri Lanka before, Walshy, touring?
No.
I know you've done Pakistan, but look, Sri Lanka is going to be an amazing trip. We've got, as I mentioned, 20 people touring with us under the spirit of cricket family, but this time it is a family. We have, I think we've got 12 cricketers. We've got myself. We've got 4 partners, and one of the families is bringing their kids along. So it's going to be an amazing experience, both from a cricketing point of view, but also from a spirit of cricket point of view. We're heading to the first day of the second Test match at the Gaul Stadium down south, and we're also doing a tour of the fort, the Dutch fort at Gaul, which is going to be an amazing experience. And obviously, that was where the tsunami hit, that Warnie had a lot to do with Murali and obviously raising a lot of money to put back into the communities and help them rebuild from what was such a tragedy. But we also had, I think I'm going to get my bearings right here. We then head east to Yala, to a national park, and we get to experience the Sri Lankan elephants and leopards in a wildlife reserve, and we'll spend a day there. And then we'll head back. And while we're doing these tours, Walshy, we're playing games against the local cricketing teams. But then we'll head back to Colombo for the welcoming ceremony. And I think the day before the welcoming ceremony, we get to play against the Aussie over 50s team in a T20 game. And then we get to play against the Ceylon Masters or over 50s team and a couple of others at some amazing grounds, all part of that Colombo cricket experience. There's going to be great food. There's going to be lots of celebrations. I was talking to one of the teams overnight, and they even said, because I said to them, look, we want to make sure that we have a competitive game, and they said we always play competitive, but more importantly, we do social even better afterwards. So it's going to be once in a life opportunity for the guys and the ladies and the kids that are coming to Sri Lanka. We've even got 2 guys coming from America as part of our team, so that's going to be a magnificent opportunity to mix with some US people. Aman and Hemant, who's been to Sri Lanka with us, and Hemant is he's a first-time Spirit of Cricket tourer. But it's going to be a fantastic 12 days in Sri Lanka. Looking forward to it.
Very true. And just on one note to when the Sri Lankans were in Hobart getting ready for that test match, they paraded around the mall and they had their souvenirs that they were selling. And a lot of them had their names on the back of their shirts, because when you saw someone, you'd think, who's that? And you asked him to turn around, and it could have been Widjiguda Wadana, Samarasekera, or Jayasuriya. Matai Muralidhan wasn't there, but you got to know them. And the looks on their faces and the smiles that they brought to any information that they were passing on, you got some sort of an understanding of what it was like for them, their players. And Aravinda De Silva was wonderful to talk to, and so was the bowler Ravi Vadnaika. You sit down and have a chat with him over a cup of tea, and he'd say, you need to understand how this is enriching our lives by coming away, representing our country, and coming to another country where we're against players that we know, every person. We know Mark Waugh, we know Steve Waugh, we know, let's have a think about others. Bruce Reed was there. There were all of the players. Ricky Ponting wasn't quite ready to play yet, but Bernie was. And you got to know them. And so for as much as we enjoy the company of Sri Lanka, it'll be reciprocated when you're there too. The Australians will be absolutely reveling in the going.
Exactly right, and we're looking forward to it. And in fact, I think in the new year, Walshy, in the clubhouse, we're going to catch up with Sena Varatni, who's the chief organizer of the IMC Over 50s World Cup in Sri Lanka. And I think he's based out of Sydney, but he's already indicated that he's more than happy to come on and tell everyone what people can experience and expect in Sri Lanka as part of that World Cup for, I think it's nearly three weeks in Sri Lanka. So we'll see the first part of the tournament, won't see the end, but it's going to be an amazing 3 weeks for all of the countries that are coming from all over the world. We've got England, we've got Wales. I'm going to miss someone, but I'm going to try and name them all. We're going to have Pakistan, India, we're going to have Namibia, we're going to have South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, the West Indies. We're also going to have the USA team and Canada. I tell you what, I reckon I nailed it. I reckon I got everyone. And of course, Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka, yes.
Yeah.
Well, so, you rolled off the tongue when you said Pakistan. We should send a cheerio out to a good friend of ours who, I'm not sure whether we've had him on as the Spirit of Cricket show, but Jason Gillespie, who bounced into Pakistan and was coming along beautifully, working spectacularly.
Got bounced out.
He got bounced out. And being there for a couple of months a long, long time ago, it's a different place. But
him and Tim Nielsen obviously weren't asked to continue their gig, and obviously Dizzy obviously had enough there. But let's move on and not focus on the negatives. But you know what? At some stage, it'd be great to catch up with Tim and Dizzy. I've met them previously and interviewed them as part of the Spirit of Cricket and the Nationals that we've been involved with Veterans Cricket. So I'm sure they'll be more than happy to join us here in the clubhouse. But look, Sri Lanka is going to be an amazing experience. After Sri Lanka, Walshy, and I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but I'm actually heading potentially into Pakistan, India, and also to Dubai.
Oh, wow, that's magnificent.
As part of our Spirit of Cricket global T20 conferences that we're rolling out, and we're looking to establish the World Cup Championship, which will be held in Dubai. And so I'll be over there in mid to late February after the Sri Lankan tour to commence negotiations on securing grounds, accommodation, etc., for the final championship. And then we'll also look to secure conferences and franchises in India and also Sri Lanka while I'm there, and Pakistan. So exciting times ahead for the Spirit of Cricket Global T20 franchise tournament. And Walshy, I'd love you to be a part of all of that if we can somehow secure your services. You've been there at the start in Mildura, and we'd love you to be there as we roll out around the world.
Well, I just heard a knock at the door. I might have to just pop out for a brief moment. Just keep talking. Hang on. Yes, sir. No, I can't take the boarding pass yet. No. The flight number looks good, but I will be able to accept and negotiate. And look, the time that I spent in Pakistan was breathtaking for so many reasons. And what you're doing is you're creating a niche in what we think is such an important part of our lives, and that's the spirit of cricket. And to think about planning. And the one thing about it is you can't sit back and say, oh, we'll have 3 months off now and then we'll just wait for the phone to ring. It's a matter of, and you know this from personal experience, working at the next project and being surrounded by people who have the same vested interests, who have the same goals, and that is to make people want to be part of the spirit of cricket and want to be part of what could be the biggest cricketing buzz in their lives, and that's a representative of an Australian team.
Yeah, and look, it's going to be an exciting period, and you touched on it, Walshy, but a lot of the people that are still playing cricket in their 50s are obviously players that just love the game. Most of the guys that are involved at club, state, national, international level do it because they love the game. There's quite a few that are chasing that glory of representing their country, but we're going to move outside that, and we're going to give players the opportunity to play international cricket around the world and be part of our Spirit of Cricket family, and something that's really exciting. So yeah, we're excited. We're going to, probably around April announce where we're going next, and obviously we'll roll out the Australian conferences, and we'll move into other countries around the world, and then culminate in that World Championship in Dubai. And it's you don't have to go and knock on the door unless I've got to negotiate with your manager as to whether you're allowed to attend or negotiate a suitable contract. But you'll be a part of it, mate.
Well, I'll just have to make sure I can take my TAB account into the subcontinent. That's all.
You're a ripper. I'm sure you can, or maybe even just leave your tips at home and
Yes.
and do a month's tips in advance or something.
Yes, that might be a chance too. Yes,
because we know that you're the last of the big gamblers at, I think, what is it, $2 each way? Is
yes,
that your maximum bets?
Yes, it's just a matter of interest, etc., etc. No. Those sorts of countries, look, yeah, it's just a magnificent way of looking ahead to 2025 and thinking about the exciting opportunities. But they won't just fall into your lap. You'll make them, you'll grab them, and there'll be so many people who want to be involved in helping you get it all together.
Yeah, and look, I was reading something recently, Walsh, and I'm happy to share this, but one of the readings, and I do a little bit of reading, and it's normally on Facebook, so it must be correct, but one of the sayings I came across was surround yourself with good people because those good people will make good things happen. And I'm doing that. You're part of that group of good people, and we know all the others that are now starting to form into that group of good people. So really looking forward to 2025, Walshy, and it's been an absolutely crazy period. There's no doubt. And I need to share with you, and a lot of our viewers tonight will have already heard it, but the Spirit of Cricket song was released last Friday, and it was an amazing. It's been an amazing 12 months working on that project behind the scenes, and then seeing it all come to fruition last Friday. A lot of the guys in Mildura got to see Paul Costa and his band perform at our opening ceremony at the Spirit of Cricket Festival, which you were there for. We also heard the Nelson Twins as well. They were part of that night. But the Spirit of Cricket song was launched on Friday. It was launched globally and on all of your favourite music platforms. If you Google Spirit of Cricket Paul Costa, you'll be able to download the song and put it in your playlist. You can go to Amazon, you can go to Apple Music, to Spotify. You can even go to, I think it's Naga or Nana, which is the equivalent of Spotify in India, which shows you the extent to where we've gone. We've had a video up on Facebook, Walshy, and this is the mind-blowing part, and I'll get to that in a minute, because the day where we did the filming with the video clip with Jeff Thompson, Dougie Walters, and John Dyson at the Bradman Museum, and we shared some beers with a couple of the local teams that were playing on the Bradman Oval. We got to share it with all of the volunteers of the museum, and we had some great stories from those three absolute legends as part of the day. And we had Jay Seeney there running around all day with his drone and his camera and capturing all of the highlights to be able to create this magnificent video that's now come out. But we've hit on Facebook alone 274,000 views of the song, The Spirit of Cricket. And you know, I've looked at some of the songs that Paul has produced, and I think the maximum he's had in his release of his songs has been up around 120, 130,000 as an absolute maximum. But we've taken this globally, and then, you know, I can see that we'll hit 1 million views in the next week or so. It's going crazy.
I think the best thing about it is there's a sense of, one of my late father's favourite words was anticipation. When Christmas was coming up, there was an anticipation as to what Santa would leave under the tree. If you were going on a holiday, the anticipation was how many sleeps to go before we headed off to the Bellarine Peninsula in Geelong. But this is anticipation for when are we going to hear the Spirit of Cricket song, because it had been spoken about and there'd been a fairly significant build-up, and I'm sure not just with people who have a cricket background, but let's have a listen to this guy because he can perform. There's no doubt about it. He stands on stage and all of a sudden you listen. And congratulations to Paul and to all of those who were involved. Figures don't tell lies. 274,000. It's on a roll. It won't stop there. But with all the platforms that you've suggested people can get access to, you want to listen to it because it's catchy, and it's like you can be sitting on a bus with half a dozen of your best mates going to a cricket match, and you can all burst into song singing it because you'll get to know the words and they will stick like other songs that we haven't heard for 20 years. Once you hear it, away you go. Well done to all and sundry too. It's a magnificent result. But it's not the end. It's not the end of the exam. You're putting your pens down and you're having a spell, and you're going to listen to it again and again and again, and you're going to tell people. That's what it's all about.
Yeah. And look, I'd love to be able to play it now while we're in the clubhouse, but I can't work out technology, so I'm not even going to try, Walshy. But look, you can catch it on all of your music platforms: Spotify, Amazon, Apple Music, Facebook, YouTube. Just Google Spirit of Cricket Paul Costa. You'll find it. He's done an amazing job, an absolute ripper bloke. He's done interviews with 3AW. He's done interviews with country music radio stations up and down the east coast of Australia. And it's only just started. It's only 5 days in, and you watch the world pick it up as the next cricket anthem since we had Come On Aussie, Come On, and we know, you know, where that went, Walshy, and this one really resonates with a lot of people in cricket right around the world with the spirit of cricket, and you know, it makes reference to playing hard and playing fair, and talks about the legends of the game, talks about T20 cricket, Test cricket. It encapsulates everything about the game that we all love. So yeah, it's been fantastic. So it'll become a regular part of our brand right around the world as we expand our brand and our logo through our music, through our competitions, through our curriculum that the Nelson twins are pushing out around Australia, and they'll be part of that journey. And we talk about good people. They're good people as well. So we're going to take them all on this amazing journey over the next 12 months and hopefully make a difference to the way people look at the world and look at the game of cricket and look at life in general.
Yeah, it's a good journey. And I think, too, one of the most important parts of your intro at the start was how we are becoming more and more au fait and more listening to discussions that we can have with people about how they're going, just to ask them how they're going. If there's an issue that you might have lost some friends, and I know we're all suffering that suddenly, and all of a sudden you're thinking to yourself, how do I work through the pain that I'm experiencing? Communication. Pick up a phone, send a message, do what we're doing. Talk to each other regularly, even though we talk a lot of, you know what, doesn't matter. We are having a conversation. And I just think that's so important. We're in the industry of communication, and we are aware too that people out there sometimes might feel a little bit reluctant. They might be, no, I don't want to have a talk about it. Well, you can't push them into it. But if there is a possibility to render assistance, put your hand up and say, love to have a chat. Let's do it.
Well said, Walshy. One of the most amazing things about our journey that we've been on over the last 3 years with the Spirit of Cricket, and I think we've now got, it's getting close to 6,500 followers on our Facebook page. But we've made so many friends, and I know you can speak, in tenfold about that you've met some amazing people. And I remember you at the Adelaide Nationals back in 2020, and you caught up with Miki, and you met Miki, and you've become a lifelong friend. And Andrew Knight and Pierre Flavel and all of these wonderful people, and that's just to name a few, because you've interviewed and been part of this brand since its inception, and I know that you've made so many new friends as well. And when things do get tough, Walshy, they're there for you. You only have to reach out and say, you know what, I'm not going so good today. Just thought I'd send you that message, and guess what? You're on the phone to me, annoying the crap out of me.
Yeah. Look, it's really developed, hasn't it? Now it's worldwide. We can talk about it being Australia-wide, but there are so many people who are aware that communication can be the best thing. It can be difficult. It can be, I don't want to talk about it, and particularly when you're going through times of difficulties, when you've lost someone that was the love of your life, or that was a relative or a friend, but to try and get together and talk about it. And sport usually is not a bad way of starting it off, because most people have an opinion.
Yeah, exactly right. And there's nothing better than going out and batting for a mate or a friend that's doing it tough. And we introduced this year also, Walshy, our yellow socks, which have made a massive impact. And I think there's upwards of 150 pairs around Australia, and even in New Zealand. I know that there's some over there as well. And you wear them every Monday to remember a mate that's doing it tough, and post it and remind yourself to reach out to your mates who might be doing it tough, and that's all part of that message. And you know what? You look at the sponsors on our screens behind us, Walshy. We've got Spot On with Jeff Charlesworth, who's done an amazing job with his company and veterans cricket right around the world. And he's off to Sri Lanka as well. And I'm looking forward to seeing the day that he umpires his, I'm not going to say his first international, because he did some in Mildura, but his first World Cup game as part of this veterans cricket and Spirit of Cricket journey that he's been on. And I'm planning to catch up with him between Christmas and New Year before we head off to Sri Lanka, and then we're going to go and catch some fish. And once again, I'll catch the biggest fish, because that's what I do when I go fishing with him. But at the end of the day, we'll sit down, we'll have a beer at the end of it. He'll clean them all, and then I'll get to eat and devour all the amazing fish, but making good friends along the way. So, that's one part of the logos behind us. We've got the IF project, and we saw the IF project. This is a great story, and I'm not sure if you caught up with the stormtroopers at the test match in Queensland, and the IF project were there, and they had, I think they called them the AB1 Kenobis, which was named after Alan Border, and they had that on the back of their shirts, dressed in pink. They also had the traditional stormtroopers in their white or grey, but they all had the IF project baggy caps on, to acknowledge men's mental health. And they've been a great supporter of us over the last 12 months as well, and hoping to catch up with Clint over the next few months as well, as we push out our brand globally and take them with us as well. So it's fun times, Walshy.
It's good to be able to promote. It's good to be able to push our thoughts not into the faces of those people there, but to say, look, there are avenues, and we'd like to think that those avenues, you would detect that you were feeling a bit slow, just not as tardy as you would want to be, or maybe even more, but get yourself organised and get to talk to someone.
Yeah, exactly right. And you know what, Walshy, it's it's been an amazing 2024. 2025 is going to be bigger and better for the Spirit of Cricket and the clubhouse. We've got some amazing guests lined up early in the new year. We'll catch up with Senna to talk about the World Cup in Sri Lanka. You know, there's all of those teams that I was miraculously able to acknowledge. And if I miss someone, I'm really sorry. But the International Masters Cricket World Cup for the over 50s in Sri Lanka is going to be an amazing experience for all those players that have been lucky enough to represent their country. I know the Aussies are heading, I think they're heading to Townsville as a warm-up in I think it's late January to play some games and do some preparation. So, you know, they're geared to have a big tournament after their disappointing result in South Africa in Cape Town, where they finished in the bottom half. And you know, the Aussies, as you know, are very proud about how they play their game, and they'll rebound and bounce back bigger and better. But we also know all the other countries are coming with fire in their bellies as we power on to that World Cup in Sri Lanka.
Well, there's no shortage of a pot of gold at the end of rainbows, and there's rainbows around the cricketing world without question. There's test matches going on at 100 miles an hour. There's big bash games going on, the women and the men just starting. The Sheffield Shield takes a small spell, but the test cricket rolls on. You're not sure what's going on with all the results, with New Zealand knocking over England. But the amazing thing about it is that I wish we could tell if there's more Indians watching cricket at venues like over in Western Australia, at the Adelaide Oval, and now at the Gabba, than there are Australians, because they are everywhere and they love it.
Oh yeah, and you know what? A lot of those Indians are there. They're probably supporting India, but they'd also, you know, they'd be there supporting Pakistan, or they'd be there supporting New Zealand or England, but they get diluted. But when their country comes out to Australia, boy, are they out in amazing forces, and it's great to see. It's great to see bums on seats Walshy at Test match cricket. And look, today was an exciting day. Obviously, the Aussies were probably favourites to win and got caught up with all of the weather that you know, obviously took away from what promised to be an amazing Test match potential victory for the Aussies. But weather intervened. You know, they lost a lot of wickets today, and I think they set the Indians 250, but then rain intervened, and obviously it was called off. But they'll all now regather themselves. Both teams will head down to Melbourne and obviously prepare for the Boxing Day test, and I look forward to that. I don't think I'll get there though. I'm going to catch up with you on Christmas Day, I believe, and then head up into I guess it's called the south coast of New South Wales, around the Ulladulla and Lake Burrell area, and looking forward to pulling up stumps and then preparing for Sri Lanka.
Excellent. Now I've got a scoop for you.
Oh dear.
All right. You like this one, I hope. I'm probably letting the cat out of the bag, but I'll go for it. Bharat Sundarajan, of course, has been on our program in the Spirit of Cricket. Now, he's doing a lot of radio work and a lot of newspaper work around the world, because he is a very knowledgeable cricketer.
Hey, I've got a question for you about Bharat, because you know, and I know that he's a friend of the Spirit of Cricket, but did he copy you with your colourful shirts?
Well, he's not saying yes. And I've got 2 or 3 solicitors who are very keen on following my case. And the solicitors that I go to, they say, if you don't win your case, you don't pay. That's good. But here's the go with Bharat. When I first met him, and this goes back, this is 6 or 8 years, and his lovely wife, Isha. Well, with Bharat, he speaks 9 languages, speaks them brilliantly, and he knows his cricket. He is a font of knowledge, hasn't had a haircut now for 13 years, I think it is, something like that, and hasn't watched
when he started wearing colourful shirts.
That's it. But here's the scoop. Bharat will feature in an ABC program called The Australian Story in February.
Okay.
Now, what's happening is, and I don't want to spread too much, but I will, the fact of the matter is that all of the bits and pieces, he's had a film crew that's been rushing around and looking after wherever he goes, and it will be in February. And I'm looking forward to it, because he's told the story on our program, and it's a wonderful story of someone who was involved with MS Dhoni's book. He wrote that, and he just loves his cricket. And as I stress, when he's not having cricket, he umpires. When he's
Yeah,
not doing it, he just loves the cricket. So that's
yeah.
one to look forward to. Bharat Sundarajan.
Yes, no, Bharat is definitely an umpire. He's an umpire here in South Australia, in Adelaide, and umpires in the South Australian Premier League. I'm not sure what division, but I'm sure he's, like all umpires, never wrong. But as we say at the Spirit of Cricket, you always respect the umpire's decision. So he's probably spot on every single time, and we accept what they do as part of a very important part of our very important game that we all love. But yeah, that's an amazing.
Like that, Telf. I like the way you said he's probably spot on, which is good for our sponsors. Well done.
Oh, geez, I just banked exactly right. We always mention spot on and Jeff Charlesworth. And you know what? Maybe we should throw to you now, because we know how much you love promoting Jeff Charlesworth and Ben Charlesworth and Spot On Hose and Fittings. Over to you, and then we'll wrap up the show.
Thank you, Telf. From manufacturing to delivery, Wollongong based, but now with new offices in Newcastle, Spot On Hose and Fittings is the go-to for the supply of hydraulic hoses, fittings, adapters, valves and connectors, offering delivery Australia-wide with testing facilities on site. Spot On is the team to see. Tell Jeff and Ben that Walshy and Telf sent you.
Hey, do you know what any of those products mean? Do you know what a connector is?
No, but I've got something wrong with my hydraulic hose. So what should I do about
that? You probably need to go and see someone like a doctor for that one, I reckon, Walshy. But anyway, well done to you. Well done for the support from Jeff and Ben. Well done to the IF project and everyone else. Actually, Global Roto Molding, who are magnificent supporters of our Spirit of Cricket Festival in Mildura, 2 weeks of international cricket and T20 cricket, and the naming of their camel, who's now known as Socks, as part of that journey. We look forward to engaging with all of those people, not just in the new year, but for years to come. And we wish everyone a safe and happy and enjoyable Christmas, New Year period. So thank you for joining us tonight. Thanks for joining Walshy and myself. A little bit of fun, a little bit of banter, but as always, a lot of respect for our great game and what we're bringing to the rest of the world. So Walshy, thank you so much.
Thanks to you, Telf, and to you and yours and all your loved ones, and to everyone who's been so supportive. Take care, be safe, and enjoy a happy Christmas into a very, very festive and productive 2025.
Yeah, wonderful. Thanks, Walshy. Good night and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everyone.